Hello guys, Voices here. Um, Today we're gonna do our killer perk tier list. Um, yeah, that's it. Also, since it's day 3, Dark Zero plays again for the right to SI. Come watch us, SOS Voices. They had an okay first play day. They played good in some matches. I really think the SI with it's like a first one to win the first game wins it all. It's stupid. I feel like best of ones don't equal skill, best of twos equal skill. But who cares? Today we have our killer perk tier list. We have all of our perks ranging from S, A, B, C, D, E, and not just Shrine tier. Um, let's just get straight into it. So the first perk we have up is a Nurse's Calling. Also, just to be warned, all these perks are going to be at level 3. A Nurse's Calling. Basically, Nurse's Calling, all it does is show you survivors healing within you within a 20-meter range. That's super fucking helpful. Especially on killers like, well, Nurse. Super helpful on Clown. Super helpful on Bubba. Super helpful on, well, it's not super helpful, but it kind of can be helpful. Time Saver on Rafe. Super helpful on Myers. Super helpful on, honestly, almost the only killers I don't think it's helpful on is Doctor and Hag. Doctor because, well, Doctor can just find you no matter where you are, and Hag because, well, I mean, Hag doesn't really need to be chasing down injured survivors. It's not her job. Trapper might also come into play, but I feel like Trapper can also like Trapper is different from a Hag because on the fact that Trapper's traps insta down, Hag has a lot more traps as well, but Hag's traps don't like insta down if someone's. I think you get what I'm saying. I don't know how to explain it. You kind of have to just play the bump both, and then you understand. I'm gonna put Nurse's Calling in A tier. I see a strong case for S tier on the fact that being able to see where survivors are healing within your 28-meter range is incredibly strong because that's very little in your tear radius, and most survivors won't leave unless, of course, you're at the Claudette. And as soon as as soon as a fucking premonition pops up, they have to run to the corner of the map to heal. But I feel like there are some stronger perks that could come down the list that could maybe take a Nurse's Calling, and on the fact that she's not the best. It's not like the best choice on some killers, so I can't put it in S tier. But Nurse's Calling can be effective. Moving on, we have Agitation. I'm gonna put it in C. Agitation is more or less a quality of life perk that you can run. Basically, your move and speed while transporting bodies is increasing by 18%. So basically, you go from moving at, what is it, 92% speed to 110? Would that be correct, or 108? I don't really know. All I know is while you're transporting a body, you now move faster than the survivors by a pretty substantial rate. It's about a hope increase, which is huge. Does that mean survivors can't just run you like if a, let's say a Yui's running breakout and they're trying to basically be an asshole and get the survivor to go out. You move faster than that Yui, even though she has the haste speed, which then allows you to hit the Yui. Now, I think I'm not sure of this agitation because it's not like Iron Grasp where it makes it harder for the survivors to wiggle out. I'm not sure if you transport agitation or farther than Iron Grasp. All I know is they're about the same, so it doesn't really matter. But I feel like agitation is more helpful than Iron Grasp. The only downside is while transporting a body, your tear radius is increased by 12 meters, but that doesn't matter, really. The only thing I could see that is maybe a fucking jaking rate of sabotage, but I don't see why that would ever help. Jake's and a sabotage are probably in a party. I don't know. I think it's a fine perk. I feel like there's some better perks though. Bamboozle. I keep doing that. Bamboozle. I'm gonna put Bamboozle in A tier. What Bamboozle does is it makes your vault speed 15% faster, and performing a vault action calls upon the entity to block that vault location for 16 seconds. That is super good. Now, it only allows one vault location to be blocked, and once you vault another one, like once you vault another, what's it called? Once let's say you're at L walls, you vault one L wall, and then you vault the other L wall. The one other L wall that you already vaulted will no longer be blocked. But this makes so much potential in the game. It makes Cow Tree useless. It makes Jungle Gyms almost useless. It makes Killer Shack almost useless. It makes so many God loops, like I just mentioned, absolutely pathetic. Eye walls become a lot harder to run around. I mean, even just running in general becomes a lot harder run around run around a killer when when you're completely restricted from wall. Eye walls become a lot harder to run around, or sorry, TNL walls become a lot harder to run around with one of the walls blocked off. It requires you to be a lot more skillful for this killer to have bigger brain than you. So I think it's a strong A tier. Once again, I feel like there's other perks that are just slightly better, but yeah, it's a strong A tier. Barbecue and chili. It gives you blood points. Easy S tier. No, barbecue and chili. Not only does it give you a stack of blood points, pretty much whenever you hook a survivor, you get a 25% stackable bonus to all blood points gained. And at the end of the game, if you've hooked all 4 survivors, you'll get a 100% increase in your blood points that you've got. So, like, let's say you got 20,000, you got 40,000. It's already nice. What makes this perk, not only is that nice, it's just like, it's like, not only is that nice because, blood points are on those blood points, but this perk also, when you hook a survivor, every single survivor 40 meters away from the hook is revealed to you for 4 seconds. That is huge. That is extremely helpful. Even on killers that don't even have the best movement. Take Myers Tier 1, or Bubba, or hell, Hag. I don't run Barbecue on Hag. Don't really run Barbecue on Hag. This really helps a lot. It shows you where all the survivors are doing, what they're currently doing, if they're opening a chest, doing a generator, healing. It shows you every single thing. This is why I don't think Nurse's Calling can be S tier, because Barbecue is just a way better perk. Barbecue is a perk that complements every single killer, once again, I think, except Hag. Because Hag, I just don't feel the need to run Barbecue. Mainly on the fact that she's usually, if you're playing a Hag, you're usually trying to go for a 3-gen, unless you're Tide Time and you're a fucking moron, and you chase people, even though you have 2 traps down. You just, like, it's hard to put into words how good Barbecue is unless you play. Like, unless you play the damn game and you use Barbecue, it's just hard to actually emphasize how hard it is. Alright, Beast of Prey. Moving on. I'm kidding. I'll actually do this one. So, Beast of Prey. Wow, this perk is pathetic. Grants undetectable status effect after getting Bloodlust Tier 1. The status effect is removed once you lose Bloodlust. And it gains a 50% more blood points for actions in the Hunter category. Why would you ever use this? First of all, if you are getting into Bloodlust in a chase, let's say you're chasing someone, you start getting Bloodlust, there's an issue. There's a genuine problem on why are you getting Bloodlust. There's a really big problem. Technically, also, this makes it undetectable. Undetectable means you hide your red stain and your tear radius. So already, you're sacrificing half the undetectable status effects. Now, the red stain can be very helpful, but once again, perks like Spine Chill, using your eye. I mean, I guess it's good. It's good at, like, fucking maybe Killer Shack, but if you're really running a Survivor run Killer Shack to the point where you have Bloodlust, there's a problem. The problem with this perk is that it's to help killers who are bad at the game. And we're not doing bad killers. We're not doing rank 20 killers. We're doing rank 1 killers. This perk is not good. To have the undetectable status effect at Bloodlust Tier 1, and then, so basically all it does is, let's say you hit a survivor after you lose it. You lose Bloodlust and you lose the effect. So, it basically means you have to run a survivor around long enough for about half a generator to get done by 2 survivors. So that means you haven't hit the survivor once. Then you lose your red stain. Then you have to somehow catch the survivor after losing red stain, which if you're already being run around for a while, the survivor's obviously better than you and obviously going to play smarter than you, so it's going to be a lot harder to catch him. Then on top of that, once you do finally hit the survivor, you lose the effect. It's terrible. It's really bad. Don't run this perk. Alright, next up we have Bitter Murmur. This is pretty much the dark sense of the killers. So, unlocks potential 1 aura's reading ability. Each time a generator is fully repaired, survivors in 60 meters of the completed generator will be revealed for 5 seconds. When the last generator is fully repaired, all survivor auras are revealed for 10 seconds. I mean, it's fine. It's a fine perk. I don't necessarily think it's the strongest, but it's also a lot better than Beast of the Prey. What makes it, I think, better than Agitation and not in C and not actually, it's a little bit better than Fight. It's okay. So what makes it a little bit better is that it is an aura revealing perk. You know, when a generator is completed, you see what every survivor is going to do for the next 5 seconds. You see what movements they're making within a 60-meter range. We see what movements they're making, and I think what makes this a little bit above C tier is that when the last generator is repaired, all the survivors are always revealed for 10 seconds. That can be super helpful to see where every single survivor is for 10 seconds to know what they're doing, what's happening when the last generator is repaired. Because when the last generator is repaired, that's when perks like NOED kick in, or like, that's when like shit gets kicked in. Like, there's no more mistakes now allowed to be made when the last generator is repaired. Because, all they have to do is open Exegate and they're out. But I think to put Bitter Murmur at anywhere above or below B would be a fucking hate crime. But I don't think I can put it higher due to Barbecue just being better. Blood Echo. I did that again. I have to scroll down. Blood Echo. Terrible perk. Terrible, 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 terrible perk. When hooking a survivor, all other injured survivors suffer from the hemorrhage and exhaustion side effect for 45 seconds. I think just by reading it, it's you understand my tier. Also, Blood Echo has a cooldown of 60 seconds. I think just that in general lets you know why Blood Echo is bad. What makes Blood Echo terrible, though, is that what are the statistical chances of you hooking a survivor and having this thing activate against every other survivor? If every other survivor is injured, the survivors are doing something wrong. Something wrong is being going on. If you get full use out of Blood Echo, which even then if you get full use out of Blood Echo, it's still not that good because you can only take a chase with one survivor, and that survivor may or may not have an exhaustion perk. And hemorrhage really doesn't matter because the survivor's already injured, making grunts of pain and bleeding, unless they have Lucky Break. But by the time you get there, by the time Blood Echo runs out, Lucky Break would also have run out, so it's useless. Like maybe Iron Will, but you still bleed with Iron Will. What makes this so utterly bad is that every other survivor is injured, and they are all near the hook, and they are all got exhaustion perks. Why? Why are they all there? Why are they all there if they're all near the hook? Why are they all injured? And on top of that, unless you've already hooked a survivor before, and they already know you have Blood Echo, and they all know they have exhaustion perks, why are they still there, even though they know their exhaustion perks can't be used? I honestly almost want to put this fucking perk in Monster Shrine tier, but what makes it slightly good is that if a survivor, let's say, put it with Barbecue, if a survivor is across the map, you have enough time to get there, and it'd be about 10 seconds. Well, they have the exhaustion still. Hemorrhage doesn't matter, but the exhaustion can be helpful. And what that requires is, they can't use sprint burst, bounce landing, and it can help. It can help. But that's a very big can. I don't think you're ever going to get use out of this. Alright, next up is Blood Warden. For some reason, Blood Warden's in front of Bloodhound. I don't know why. Maybe it's because there's a space there. Blood Warden... Speak! Blood Warden, it's really a meme perk. Once per match, a survivor, if a survivor's hooked and the exit gates are opened, if you hook a survivor and the exit gates are opened, it will block the exit gates for 60 seconds. And any survivors inside the exit gates, their auras are revealed to you. I'm going to put it in D tier. It's more or less a meme perk. However, it can sometimes be used, and it really can. The only reason that I put it in D tier is that it can be used. And it can really, really benefit a killer in, killing. I don't really know. It's the kind of perk that you just use when the survivors are total morons. It's better at lower ranks. It's not that good at higher ranks, so I don't know. D tier. All right, Bloodhound. This is a terrible perk. Bloodhound, like a hunting scent hound, you smell traces of blood at a great distance. Fresh blood marks are considerably more discernible than normal and can be tracked for 4 seconds longer than normal. What that makes it so the blood, there is more blood and you see it better. It glows a brighter red. And there's tracked for 4 seconds or longer. What makes this perk bad is that it actually, on some maps, can result in you. And this is the same as his other perks, his scratch mark perk. On some maps, it can actually have you missing blood trails and missing scratch marks, just like his other perk, which we'll get into that next. However, if you're on a map like Lampkin, it can be helpful. But here's the thing: if you're already not seeing blood trails or scratch marks, all these other things, I don't know why you need to see one thing better. If an injured survivor is injured, if an injured survivor is injured, bleeding, you're gonna see the blood very easily. You're already gonna see the scratch marks, so they're probably running, and you're gonna hear the grunts of pain. Unless they're running Lucky Break, Iron Will, but then they don't bleed if they're running Lucky Break, so that's completely countered. Bloodhound is, I think, not Monster Shrine tier, just in the fact that it does do what it says it's gonna do. It is gonna help you see, and I feel like maybe once in a blue moon it can be used, but on most killers and most. So I think I'm just gonna put it in E tier. But on that maybe one occasion on Backwater Swamp, and you see that one little blood trail, and you're playing fucking Huntress, it can be a beauty. Brutal Strength, B tier. Brutal Strength basically is a time saver perk, but it's a better time saver perk. You destroy drop pallets, breakable walls, and generators 20% faster. That's it. That's all it does. It's a time saver perk. It's super good on killers like Huntress. I mean, it's helpful on Trapper. It's not that helpful on Wraith. Can be helpful on Hag if you're in her little area. I don't know. It's just an all-around better perk. It's just good. Corrupt Intervention. This is my friend's, in his opinion, my friend John, because he's going to be watching this video. Hi, John. This is John's personal opinion, the best perk in the game. I don't agree with him. I don't think it's the best perk in the game. I think it's one of the best perks in the game. Not the best, though. Corrupt Intervention blocks the 3 farthest generators wherever you spawn from. The 3 farthest generators from you are blocked for 2 minutes. That is so helpful. That is so incredibly helpful. It is unfathomably helpful in Hag, unfathomably helpful in every killer in general. But Hag, oh my gosh, it benefits Hag so beautiful. Mwah. Now, I feel like what makes this perk so good is the fact that it completely stops survivors from doing the thing that makes them win, and that's generators. It blocks 3 generators. Literally, they can't, with those 3 generators blocked, it is physically, it's impossible. It is physically impossible for when Corrupt Intervention is up, even if every other generator is magically popped right then and there, physically impossible for survivors to win the game with Corrupt Intervention up. Now, it's never going to come to the fact that survivors will ever, maybe if every single survivor spawned on a separate generator and started working at the exact same time, you have 30 seconds of Corrupt Intervention where it's literally impossible. But this makes it so basically, because almost always 2 survivors will spawn far away from you. So it's instantly 2 survivors that have to run around the map and find a different generator. On top of that, the fact that these 3 generators are locked for 120 seconds, 2 other generators can pop, all 4 other generators can pop, and these would still be blocked. That's what makes this perk so incredible. Even at tier 1, all 4 generators, even at tier 1, which would be 90 seconds, all other 4 generators can pop, and this would still all be blocked. It is so helpful. Corrupt Intervention, fantastic perk. Not the best perk in the game. Fantastic perk. Sorry, I have my coffee here. I just keep drinking it. Yeah, I do slurp my coffee. Deal with it. Colophobia. Colophobia is bad. It's only good on doctor builds, but even then, I think there's just better. So, your presence alone instills great fear. Survivors within your territories have a negative 50% penalty to heal progress speed. Not only is that useless on basically half the killers, it's only good, and it's only meh. It's not even good. It's only meh on Doctor, Doctor, what is it? Distressing builds, where you want your Terriers to be as big as possible. Only issue with that is that that's not Doctor's best build. Save the best for last would be a way better substitute on Doctor than what's that called? Distressing. I would say barbecue, even though barbecue is not that helpful on Doctor, could be way better. Brutal strength, fucking corrupt intervention, no way, even though no one's not that good. And every other perk could complement Doctor better than color phobia and distressing. Color phobia is the perk that is just how should I put this? How should I put this? The perk you use on Legion with this best add-on, what is it called? The iridescent button. Just to be a dick. But here's the thing, it doesn't affect mending speed, so it's not even on Legion. Oh, I almost want to put this as fucking monstrous shrines here, but the fact that it's meh on Doctor Distressing builds doesn't. Coup de grace. This perk for some reason got nerfed. And I have no idea why, because it's not good. This is the worst perk. Honestly, I'm going to put it in monstrous shrines here. This is a terrible perk. I don't know why this got nerfed. In the PTB, for twins, each time a generator was completed, coup de grace grows in power. Gain a token. Consume one token to increase the distance of your next launch attack by 60%. In the PTB, it was 100%, and then they nerfed it. I don't know why. This perk requires something that sucks. And this is going to be the same issue with a lot of other perks in this game. It was just like the Survivor perks. It requires a generator to be popped, or just like how Survivors, something that will make it or require Survivor to be hooked. It requires you to be in a negative position for it to activate. And unlike something like Noet, this perk is not strong whatsoever. It increases the distance of your next launch attack by 60%. Wow. When will that ever help you? Never. Never. Never once is that ever going to help you. It's useless on killers like Wraith, on Myers, on Doctor, on Hag, on Demogorgon, on Huntress, on Trickster, on hell, the fucking twins, the character that is even made on, it's useless on her and him, I guess. It's so unfathomably bad. The only killer, once again, that it might be useful on is Trapper. And that's just because Trapper can, put down traps and set up a 3-gen. But even then, why would you run coup de grace when you could run Enduring, you could run Brutal Strength, you could run Nurses, you could run Corrupt, you could run Barbecue, you could run... I don't know, you could fucking run Unrelenting, which is the cooldown after a missed basic attack is reduced by 30%. That's better. You could run Whispers. You could run Overcharge, Ruben, Notewed, Mime All Years, Infectious Fright. The perk is absolutely god-awful and terrible. I can't put into words how terrible it is. Moving on, Cruel Limits. We're going to have to go through a lot of bad perks here for a little bit. Cruel Limits, I'm trying to think of somewhere where this map is. It's good on Hawkins. Every time a generator is completed, all windows and vault locations with a 32-meter radius or the completed generator are blocked for all the survivors the next 30 seconds. I can't speak. And you see the aura of vault locations blocked by Cruel Limits. It's terrible on every single killer. I'm serious. It's terrible on every single killer. It's only good on maps. And the only map I think it's good on could be maybe Hawkins or Backwater Swamp. But even then, it still requires the generator to complete it, and the effects aren't that strong. I've never had Cruel Limits activated once. I've never run Cruel Limits in my life. And I do fine. I rank 1. I think I have a 90% win rate in games. I can't put into words how bad Cruel Limits is. Dark Devotion. A very underrated perk, actually. I'm going to put it in B. Dark Devotion. You become obsessed with one survivor. Hitting the obsession with a basic transfers your tear radius to the obsession for 30 seconds. It sets the radius at 32 meters. You are granted the undetectable status effect for the duration. This plays some very, very... how should I put it? It puts some very big mind games on survivors, on the fact that if you hit the obsession for the next 30 seconds, not only are you invisible, pretty much, the obsession is carrying around your tear radius, which I think is better than just a blatant undetectable. On top of that, it's a 32-meter tear radius for 30 seconds, which is nice. But for 30 seconds, you're invisible, and the obsession is running around, scaring and confusing every other survivor on the map. And that makes, and that is, what's the word for it? What's the word for it? What would you put into it? Strong, excellent. I don't really know. Mind games are one of the most important things in a game. Mind games against survivors really basically determine whether or not you're gonna win. Backpedaling, shaking your camera, flashlight saves with mind games, faking picking up a survivor, faking breaking a pallet, fake vaulting. Like, mind games can determine whether or not you're going to win a game or not. And this is basically the mind game perk. They should make a perk called. They don't have a perk called mind game. Well, there you go. Uh, Deadman's Deadman Switch is up next. Become obsessed. After hooking the obsession, Deadman Switch activates for 45 seconds. When activated, any server that stops repairing a generator before it is fully repaired causes the entity to block the generator until the Deadman Switch. In fact, the generators are highlighted by a white aura. This perk is completely out. I did not mean to unplug my headset. Hold on. Deadman Switch is completely outclassed by Thrilling Tremors, Corrupt Intervention. Hell, it's fucking worse than what's that survivor perk that allows you to? What's the survivor perk that allows you to what is it, like repressed regression or like repressed progression, whatever it is, like that? Repressed aggression. I'm not sure. It's Cheryl's perk. It's countered by Cheryl's perk. It's countered by a survivor perk that automatically makes you block a generator. It's so basically when you hook your obsession, if a survivor gets off the generator. So this is not a generator is not like blocked for 45 seconds. No, when you hook your obsession, the timer starts for 45 seconds. If a survivor gets off a generator, it blocks it. It's not for 45 seconds though. It's forever how long Deadman Switch is already activated. Yeah. Deathbound. More coffee, please. Sorry, I have my fucking. I moved my carpet down, which now means my monitor and everything like that. Yes, I have a monitor, 165 hertz, is now in a position. Oh crap! Someone's online. It's now in a position where I keep hitting my head against my computer desk because I'm saving up for a PC, and until then I sit on the floor. Hi. And I keep hitting my head against my fucking computer desk because my computer desk is right where I sit. Fuck you. Or were we though? Deathbound. Deathbound. This one's very helpful. Those who suffer, or those who live, are entwined in darkness and are destined to suffer together. When a survivor heals another survivor for one health state, at least 32 meters away from the killer, the survivor performing the healing action will scream, revealing the location and activating Deathbound for the next 60 seconds. During that time, the survivor will suffer from the oblivious status effect when further than 8 meters away from the healed survivor. What this does is it tells you where survivors are healing, what they just did. Well, it doesn't really tell you where survivors are healing, but where they healed. And it also makes it so that those survivors are stuck together and they cannot separate. They are stuck together, or one survivor will suffer for 60 seconds by basically being fucking disabled. They cannot hear your tear radius. They cannot see your shred. What's it called? Can hear your tear radius. They can't see your. Oh, I can't think of the name. They can't see your red stain. Basically, you are invisible to one survivor for the duration of Deathbound. And that's incredibly strong. Also, in the fact that it tells you where survivors were just healing. It's basically a shittier barbecue, but it also scares survivors and forces one of them to stay. It basically just forces two survivors to stay together, which is what I think makes it so so strong in those situations, because it forces survivors to stick together. On top of that, it forces a survivor to, if he wants to leave, be retarded. I don't know where to put this perk. I don't know how to describe this perk. I'm gonna put it in B because I think There are some better perks. You just find nurses, but still, not a bad perk whatsoever. Moving on, we have Deer Stalker. Moving on, we have Discordant. Any generator within a range of 128 meters, which is pretty much the entire map, is being repaired by 2 or more survivors is marked by a yellow aura. When the generator is first highlighted, Discordant triggers a loud noise notification on the generator. After the generator is no longer within range of or is no longer being repaired by 2 or more survivors, the aura remains for another 4 seconds. Basically, Discordance tells you where survivors are and what they are doing. But, you know, that's already used in a lot of perk. What makes this perk better in something like, I don't know, Deathbound or Nurses? Well, it basically blankets the entire map, and on top of that, it tells you where 2 or more survivors is. And survivors are working on generators a lot. It basically instantly tells you when survivors get on a generator and when survivors get off. That is super helpful on Legion which is his personal perk. Legion, Hillbilly. It complements Bubba so well because Bubba's terrible. It complements Nurse. It complements every killer, maybe except Hag, because Hag doesn't need it. A lot of these perks you're going to say that are good don't really complement Hag. Discordance is one of those perks that is just so nice to have and so nice to just use. To know when survivors instantly get on a generator, which, I mean, you can already patrol around generators, which, killers do. To know when they're instantly on it, and to know when they're basically instantly off it, and to know that they're still doing it, you can basically know when a survivor is doing, when 2 or more survivors are just doing a generator, and how long they're holding it. And that's so helpful. Especially that it could take the survivors to figure out a while since that you're running Discordance. It's a great perk. I'm going to put it in A tier. Also, mind you, I say this in my other videos, I'm terrible at speaking. Distressing. Moving on. Alright, fine. Your horrifying ambition, blah blah blah. Your tear radius is increased by 26% and gain 100% more blood points for actions than Devious character. No one really cares. Basically, Distressing just increases your tear radius. Only good on, like I said before, Doctor, but there's better perks. Moving on. Dragon's Grip. That is the next one, right? Yep. After kicking in a generator for the next 30 seconds, the survivor that interacts with it will scream, revealing the location for 4 seconds and become afflicted with the exposed head sector 60 seconds. Dragon's Grip has a cooldown of 80 seconds. I'm put in C. Dragon's Grip is really only good, like, when you're patrolling around a generator. Like, let's say you walk up to a generator, half its percentage is done. You're like, okay, I'm gonna look around the area, see if anybody's on the generator. You can't find anybody. You're like, okay, I'll kick it and walk away. You kick it. Turns out the survivor's there. They scream. They show their location to you for 4 seconds, and then they're exposed. If you can come back and catch them within that 1 minute, then it's an insta down. If you can't, meh. Only issue is that it does have a cooldown of 80 seconds, but it's how should I put this? Strongeth. Dying Light. I'm actually gonna put it in D. Dying Light. You become obsessed with one survivor. Your obsession gains a 33% action speed to unhooking and healing other survivors. Each time you hook a survivor other than the obsession, if the obsession is alive, gain a token. If the obsession is alive, all survivors who are not the obsession gain a 3% penalty to repair, healing, and sabotage speed for each token. Basically, this perk requires you to completely ignore your obsession. Before, it would require you to tunnel your obsession. Now, it requires you to ignore your obsession. Only reason this is an E tier is that a lot of perks do compliment you in ignoring your obsession. Save the best for last. What's that other perk called? Play with your food. I know there's a lot more perks. I'm just an idiot right now. I can't think of them off the top of my head. Or maybe we should just play with your food and save the best for last. Oh, Nemesis. Nemesis also helps. I'm an idiot. I'm looking through all of them. I'm an idiot. I really can't think. Yeah, Nemesis helps. I just don't think it's the best perk in stopping gem regression. Thana's a lot better. I mean, Ruin's a lot better. Pop's a lot better. I mean, it does cause a penalty to healing and sabotage, but it doesn't cause a penalty to vaulting. If this caused a penalty to vaulting, I feel like this would be a lot stronger, but it doesn't. I'm gonna put it in D just because you can't. Hooking a survivor is a very common thing to do, but in reality, it's not the best because it basically requires you to leave one survivor alone, and that one survivor has a boost to healing, which is what in hooking survivors, which is what they're going to be doing. Which is what they're going to be doing a lot if they aren't being tunneled, is unhooking and healing. And if they're unhooking and healing with a 33% increase to that speed, it's just annoying. Alright, enduring. Alright, let's why does enduring get S tier? Even after the nerf, yes, this perk got nerfed. Even after the nerf, it's incredible. You are resistant to pain. You reduce the duration of pallet stuns by 50%. Holy cow. Enduring allows you to literally swing through every single fucking pallet. I'm pretty sure Enduring used to reduce your stun to decisive. I'm not sure if it does it anymore, but honestly, it doesn't need it. Enduring literally allows you, like I said, to swing through every single pallet and play much, much, much more aggressively. The fact that Enduring and on top of that, Enduring also reduces the duration of pallet stuns by 50%. So not only are you allowed to just swing through every fucking pallet, if you do get stunned, which you're going to get stunned a lot using Enduring, it's barely any time. Barely any time. I feel like when I get stunned with Enduring, I feel like I'm just instantly back in it within 2 seconds. Enduring is one of the best time saver perks of all time. I just no words can describe how utterly strong Enduring is. Fire up. I want to like fire up. I really do want to like fire up, but for each generator completed, gain a 4% stackable buff that grants the speed to picking up, dropping, vaulting, damaging generators, and breaking pallets the remainder of the trial. What's the problem with fire up? That sounds like a strong perk. Well, it requires you to have generators completed. So pretty much, 1 generation completed 4%, 2 generators completed 8%, 3 generators completed 12%, 4 generators completed 16%. You get a 20% increase if all 5 generators are completed. What's the issue with that? Brutal Strength exists, Bamboozle exists, all these other perks exist. Now, you might be saying, but Fire Up complements all of them. But what's the difference between Fire Up and Brutal Strength? Brutal Strength doesn't require generators to be popped, putting you in a negative position. That's what makes Fire Up bad, is it requires you to have generators completed and be put into a shitty negative position. If you didn't have to have generators completed and have a negative position put into state, Fire Up would be a lot better. But the fact that you have to be in a negative position, just like with something like We'll Make It or Decisive Strike, makes Fire Up really, really shit. Unlike We'll Make It, Decisive Strike, though, those are good perks. Okay. Moving on. Forced Penance. Survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with the broken status effect for 80 seconds. This goes in the Monster Shrine tier. Okay. I've seen Forced Penance builds. Okay, but here's the thing. Survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with the broken status effects for 80 seconds. If a survivor takes a protection hit, they're already trying to get in the way. That's mostly survivors trying to take a hit for, what's it called? What's that perk? What's it called? Oh yeah, hooking. Like survivors who have take a protection hit are most likely trying to stop you from carrying a survivor to a hook. So they're gonna be injured because instantly, most of the time you're gonna get the hook, and then you're gonna go chase the injured survivor. So the broken status effect for 80 seconds doesn't matter. But let's say they get away. They're not broken for 80 seconds. Okay. Unlike For the People, which is a shitty perk. What makes this broken status effect not that bad, and I mean really not as bad, or not as bad as For the People, is that taking a protection hit is so much different than just putting yourself in an injured state. But if you're taking a protection hit, you're most likely going to immediately get chased afterwards. What makes For the People bad is that you have to go in and run in front of the killer, and then heal the survivor, and then instantly be chased and go insta down. What makes Forced Penance different is that you get to run in front of the killer, and you aren't required to heal the survivor. That's what makes Forced Penance different from something like For the People. I'm gonna put in Monster Shrine tier because I still think it's as bad. Because I just survivors who take a protection hit are inflicted with a broken status effect. It doesn't matter if they're broken because they're taking a protection hit. They're already injured. Is the problem? Moving on, dude. I just can't put into words how bad it is. When I try to describe something on how bad it is, I just can't describe it because it's so hard for me to describe it. Franklin's demise. B tier. So now I'm gonna explain why. Franklin's demise. What Franklin's demise does is it makes a survivor drop whatever item they have in their hand, and if they don't pick it up within 90 seconds, it will disappear. The entity will be consumed. The entity will consume it, and it also allows you to see items on the ground within a 32 meter range, and also the for however long the item's been on the ground, it will start going white, then light red, then like red, then dark red, and basically however intense the color red is, it basically however intense the color red is means that it's about to disappear. This is much better than it used to be because it requires survivors to go and pick back up their item or they will lose their item. This is super helpful against keys, toolboxes, medkits, flash, basically every item. That's why I put it in B. I don't really know, man. Furtive chase. You become obsessed with one survivor. You like blah 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 blah. This is such a bad perk. You become obsessed with one survivor. You lurk in their shadows, eliminate your victims one by one. When your obsession is hooked, Furtive Chase receives a token up to a maximum of 4 tokens. Each token decreases your terror radius by 4 meters while on a chase. When a survivor rescues the obsession from the hook, the rescuer becomes the obsession. You lose all your tokens if the obsession is sacrificed or killed. Monstrous Shrine tier. Why would you need your terror radius reduced in a chase? Seriously, why would you need your terror radius reduced in a chase? On top of that, you lose all your tokens if the survivor is killed. And you're basically requiring, tunnel your obsession. Now you might be saying, oh, but voices, every single time a survivor unhooks another survivor, they become the obsession. What if you've hooked that survivor before? And then the obsession just got hooked. They're not the obsession. You now have to ignore that survivor. They've already been hooked twice. It's so bad. On top of that, once again, why do I need my terror radius reduced while I'm in a chase? Why? Why would I need my terror radius reduced while I'm in a chase? On top of that, 4 tokens. It reduces your terror radius by 4 meters. Let's put this on Hag, just so it's a 24 meter terror radius. That's 20 meters in a chase on the first token. 16 on second token. 12 on, it's 8 meters at minimum. 8 meters at minimum. Right? Just because you reduce 24, so you reduce it by 4, that's 20, and 16. It's 2. Yeah, it's 8 meters. I'm an idiot. I don't know why I can't do math. 8 meters in a chase, your terror radius is. Now, if we put this on a killer like Ghostface, who has a 32 meter terror radius, 28 verse, 24, 20, 16. It's 16 meters in a chase. 16 meters in a chase. And 8 meters on a killer with a smaller one. That's so terrible. That's so terrible. Because you don't need your terror radius reduced by 4 meters while in a chase. If you want a perk that's going to reduce your terror radius from Monitor, don't run this perk. Please. Please don't bring Furtive Chase. Please. As the killer main once said, this is my quote. And my quote. My quote is, those who run Furtive Chase are fucking retarded. Said that quote. Alright, moving on. After hitting Survivor, or Gearhead, after hitting Survivor 2 times with your basic attack, this perk got nerfed in the PTP, by the way, I don't know why. After hitting Survivor 2 times with your basic attack, Gearhead activates for 30 seconds. When a Gearhead is activated, each time a Survivor completes a good skill check while appearing generated, the general will be revealed by yellow or blah 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 blah. Gearhead's E tier. The only reason it's not Monster Shrine tier is that it can actually be activated. Good survivors that always get great skill checks, like Maw, already don't have a problem with this perk. Because this perk's basically useless. On top of that, you basically have to hit a survivor. Well, what makes this perk not Monster Shrine tier is that for it to activate it, you actually have to be in a good situation. Because most of the time, survivors being hit with a basic attack twice means they're going to go down. Unless you already hit an injured survivor and then blah blah, or you're doing hit run and blah blah blah. But most of the time, hitting survivor twice with your basic attack Makes them go down. Now, you pick them up, and you go put them on the hook. Your head's still activated for that 30 seconds. You can look around, you can see the yellow generator. Boom, you can go chase another survivor. What makes this perk bad is that other perks like barbecue exist, discordance exist, dark devotion exists, which, I mean, you might be saying, how does dark devotion work in with this? But once again, 32 meters or 30 seconds. I mean, surveillance exists, ruin surveillance exists, tremors exist, surge exists, overcharge exists. Every other perk exists besides Gearhead that allows you to see other survivors or give you a position on generators, which makes this perk bad. Not as good. It's not. Well, it's not bad, but it's outclassed, which puts it in E tier. Because mostly being outclassed doesn't always put you in a shitty tier. But when you're outclassed, it will put you in a shitty tier. When you are extremely outclassed, when you are incredibly outclassed, it's gonna put you down in the shitty tiers. Hangman's Trick. You gain a notification when the survivor begins sabotaging a hook. While carrying a survivor, see the aura of any survivors within 6 meters of the hook. If you were not allowed to see the aura of any survivor within 6 meters of a hook, I'd put this in Monster Shrine tier. Just so you can see the auras of survivors while carrying a survivor within 6 meters of a hook, because hooks are very common, I'm going to put it in D. And that's the only reason, because being able to see auras is super helpful. Gaining notification when a survivor begins sabotaging a hook is absolutely useless, because when they're done sabotaging a hook, you already get the notification. When they finish sabotaging a hook, you get the notification. You don't need it at the start. That's 2 seconds or 4 seconds. That's like 4 seconds and then all toolbox and 0.5 seconds. Like, really, at the maximum, it's going to take you 4 seconds to find out someone's sabotaging a hook. Wow, that's really gonna stop you from getting a survivor on the hook, or, stop you from knowing that survivor's sabotaging whatever will they do. It's 4 seconds. Wow, man, 4 seconds is incredible. It's not like they can't hold sabotage anymore and have to completely commit to a sabotage. No, man, 4 seconds. Oh, how dare they? 4 seconds is insane. But while carrying a survivor, see the aura of any survivors within 6 meters of the hook is kind of helpful. It's still not that good. Once again, barbecue and other perks like that exist. Alright, moving on. Hex Blood Favor. Also known as Hex Fuck Pallets. When a survivor is hit with a basic attack, pallets within 60 meters of the location are held in place by the NC for 15 seconds. These pallets cannot be pulled down. Hex Blood Favor is a cooldown of 40 seconds. Put it in B. Honestly, I've used this. I can use this. The fact that it's a Hex perk makes it very annoying. Because it can be cleansed. But I've genuinely used this. It wasn't an Hex perk; it'd be overpowered. But I've genuinely used this perk to effectiveness. I just don't think it's that good because there's a cooldown and it's a Hex perk and it can be cleansed. If it wasn't a Hex perk, it'd be SSS tier. But the fact that it makes almost most, like, Bamboozle, Hex, Blood Favor makes loops like Jungle Gym useless, makes Couch useless, make, what's the other perk? Killer Shack useless, makes Iron, basically Bamboozle, Blood Favor can make pretty much almost every single loop in the game useless. TNLs are fine, but almost every game. But it's a Hex perk, which really holds it back. Oh, did I rank Hex Blood Favor? Okay, I did. Hex Crowd Control. Once again, this goes in B. It can be super helpful. It can be super helpful. Only problem, it's a Hex perk. The NCA blocks a window for 14 seconds after the survivor performs a rush fall through it. Unlike Bamboozle, this can block multiple windows. And it doesn't have to, you don't have to be in a chase or something like that. You don't have to be like, it doesn't have to be like actively used. Let's just say a survivor across the map falls through a window. Blocks it. Just to be a dick. Just to be a dick. Now, the fact that it's a Hex perk makes this perk so utterly annoying. If it wasn't a Hex perk, once again it'd be SSS tier, so I understand what's a Hex perk. But I feel like Bamboozle is just better because it's on a Hex perk and it can be used whenever. Hex Crowd Control is super helpful in a chase because it makes, once again, Hex Blood Favor and Hex Crowd Control together. It can make fucking Couchery, all those perks, all those loops mentioned before, useless. But the fact that it's a Hex perk holds it back. I don't really know where to put it. I'm going to put it in B. I'm going to keep it in B because it's super strong. But, once again, it's just annoying. Iron Grasp. That's not supposed to be here. Let's just do Iron Grasp over here. It's a shittier agitation. It goes in D. It's just a shittier agitation. Effects of survivors struggling are reduced by 75%, and time to struggle out of your grass increased by 12%. It's just shittier agitation. That's all. Moving on. Hex Devour Hope. I'm gonna put it in D. I know a lot of people are gonna get upset at that, but the fact that it's a hex perk, not only that, it's one of the strongest hex perks. It's one of the most threatening hex perks in the game, which already makes it almost useless. So, to get hex Devour Hope deactivated, 2 tokens. So once you have 2 tokens, you get a 5% haste effect, or 5% haste status effect for 10 seconds after hooking survivor for the duration of 10 seconds. So that's pretty meh. At 3 tokens, which is 3 tokens is what's it called? Like well, pretty much to get a token, a survivor needs to be rescued from a hook at least 24 meters away from you, and then Devour Hope will receive a token. So you're already in a pretty shitty position if you're like camping. At 3 tokens, survivors suffer from the exposed status effect. At 5 tokens, you basically get to more survivors. This makes it a very strong perk after 3 tokens. What makes it bad is that 5 tokens is just so unfathomably hard to just get. And honestly, being able to Mori at 5 tokens, it really means nothing, because every other survivor's already been like hooked, pretty much. I mean, maybe, pretty much, you have to do a double hook on at least one survivor at 5 tokens, which is already old Mori, but, it's already at 5 tokens, it's already pretty shit. At 5 tokens, that's just shit. At 3 tokens, that's incredibly strong. What makes this hard, though, is that this is a hex perk, so it can be cleansed at pretty much the useless of the game, at pretty much at any point in the game. Now, let's say 3 tokens, you get 3 tokens, and you down survivor. They now know you have Devour. You are gonna see that totem pop within 30 seconds. Never once have I had Devour Hope get 3 tokens. Actually, no, I've had it maybe twice hit it 3 tokens, but I've never once had it hit 4. I've never had it once hit 4. Now, again, I don't use Devour Hope that much, but the fact that this is a hex perk makes it so unfathomably terrible. And here we have the exact opposite of Hex Devour Hope. Hex Haunted Grounds. 2 trapped hex totems will spawn in the trial, so that means you have 2 hex totems. When one of the trapped hex totems is cleansed, all survivors suffer from the exposed status effect for 60 seconds. That is huge. Every single survivor on the map now becomes exposed. That is so utterly helpful. The fact that every survivor is now exposed for 60 seconds makes this perk incredibly good on Hillbilly, on Wraith, on Trapper. It's kind of good on Hag. It's incredible on Nurse. It's good on Blight. It's good on Legion. It's good on Clown, kinda. It's kind of good on Myers. Kinda good on, what's his name, Oni. Basically, it complements every other killer in the game. Well, basically complements every killer in the game, I think, except like Huntress and Trickster, but maybe Twins, because you use Victor a lot. I don't know, it complements basically almost every survivor killer in the game. And on top of that, when survivors see a hex perk, they're not thinking, oh, Haunted Grounds. They're thinking, cleanse, 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 cleanse. I'm an asshole. Big cleanse, cleanse, cleanse. That's what survivors think when they see a hex perk. They're not thinking, oh, it's Haunted Grounds. They're not thinking, oh, maybe it's this killer, it's a Haunted Grounds. Or, oh, it's a spirit, it's Haunted Grounds, because most spirits don't actually run Haunted Grounds. But they're not thinking, oh no, Haunted Grounds, I better not cleanse. What they're thinking is, I see a hex perk, I need to cleanse it. There is perk. And then they're like, oh shit, I'm exposed. So it basically makes it, for every single survivor is now one shot for 60 seconds. That's huge. Especially if you're in a chase already and it pops. Or you're playing Wraith and you're running around and it pops. Like, when it pops, every survivor is terrified. And it bleeds into mind games. The only thing that requires it not to be S tier is that it's a hex perk, it requires to be cleansed. Only thing that makes it not S tier. Hex Huntress Lullaby. Survivors receive a 6% regression penalty when missing a skill check. And this is basically as long as required. Each time a survivor is hooked, Huntress Lullaby grows in power. 1 to 4 tokens. Time between the skill check warning sound and the skill check becomes shorter. 5 tokens. No skill check warning. If you can get 5 tokens, it's better than Ruin. At 1 to 4 tokens, I don't think it matters. 1 to 4 tokens, this really doesn't matter. Maybe at 4 tokens, it might confuse a good survivor. But honestly, I feel like at 1 token, I have more issues hitting Chills Kex than I do at 4 tokens with Lullaby. The only issue I have with Lullaby is that, once again, it's a Hex perk, but on top of that, honestly, I don't think this needs to be a Hex perk. Like, genuinely. I feel like sometimes, I swear, I feel like this perk might not even need to be a Hex perk. I don't even think it would be overpowered if it was not even a Hex perk. The fact that it's a Hex perk makes it C, because this perk can be really strong, but a good survivor really doesn't necessarily need a skill check warning to understand there's a skill check coming. Unless, they're just like, being a, what's that kid's name? Cows I am, just back. Let's drink coffee and then gets ass raped. This house Bikini. Bikini Body and Cows I am sound the exact same. Most survivors are paying attention when they're doing generators and waiting for skill checks. Now, once Hunter's Lullaby activates, survivors will be paying super close attention. But the fact that it's a Hex perk makes it pretty much useless. Hex No One Escapes Death. C tier. Hex No One Escapes Death is honestly not that good of a perk. Survivors suffer from the exposed. Also, you could see Scott Junn for his further analysis on this. Survivors suffer from the exposed status effect once all the generators have been popped. Every survivor suffers from the exposed status effect, and your movement speed is increased by 4%. Now, they don't know you have NOED until you hit a survivor, and then it'll tell you, oh, he has NOED, by the way, guys. But what makes this perk bad is that, once again, it's a Hex perk. And also, you can cleanse NOED before, what's it called? You can cleanse NOED before the, you can activate it. If you get rid of all the totems in the map, which there's 5, and sometimes it's not that hard to do, NOED will not activate. It will not spawn a magical totem. It has to have a totem there. And even then, if there's one, you can be saving 1 totem in hell if you really want to, and you'll instantly know where it is. That makes NOED very, very weak. Very, very weak. Especially if survivors are the ones that do bones, which honestly a lot of survivors do bones. In reality, NOED can be found very easily if everyone works together. If a survivor goes down, in the time it takes the killer to hook that survivor after downing them with NOED, NOED can be gone. NOED can secure an insta-down, sure. NOED can secure insta-downs. NOED can completely end a game. Yes, it can. But it's entirely the survivors. I had a whole argument on this with some guy named Conson. If you lose to No One Escapes Death, it is entirely your fault. No One Escapes Death requires skill. The movement speed increase could be helpful, but it requires skill. It requires a skill. It requires like concentration from the survivors. The survivors have to be basically when no one pops, the survivors are. How many more perks? Dear God. When no one pops, the survivors have to be on their A game. They have to be playing the game. They can no longer just be running around blowing killers. And that's the issue with NOED. Is that the survivors could just, be cracked at Fortnite, my guy. And just be good. Also, they could just do all the bones. NOED is not that good of a perk. It's secure insta-downs, yes. Doesn't mean it's good. Hex Retribution. This is... Where the fuck is Hex Retribution? Why is it behind Ruin and all this? I don't know why. Hex Retribution, it's... it's another perk I'm gonna have to put in C. So, any survivor who cleanses a Dull Totem will suffer from the Oblivious side effect for 5 seconds. That's whatever, I guess. Oblivious can be very strong, but necessarily I feel like Spine Chill and other perks, I don't think that's that bad of a problem. What makes it good, if any Hex Totem is cleansed, including this one, any Hex Totem on the map is cleansed, the auras of all survivors, every single survivor, will be revealed to you for 10 seconds. That's incredibly strong, to know where every survivor is for 10 seconds, at the cost of requiring a Hex Totem to be cleansed. And normally Hex Totems are the strongest perks in the game, like Hex Devour Hope, which, if you can get 3 tokens, is super strong. Hex Ruin. Hex No One Escapes Death, which once again, it's entirely your fault if you lose a Hex Ruin. Oh, sorry, I put the Hex Undying there. Hey, where's Retribution? I put Hex on Dying there. Where's Hex Retribution? Out of every single perk in the game, are you telling me they don't have Hex Retribution, or did I move it down like an idiot? There it is, Hex Retribution. I moved it down. Basically, it requires you to sacrifice Hex perks, which have to be Hex perks because they weren't. They'd be super strong. To be sacrificed for its ability to activate, which what makes it annoying. Moving on. Hex Ruin, you've been ruined, and you'll never be the same again. Honestly, new Hex Ruin isn't that bad. I put it around B. Hex Ruin now, it will after a generator is stopped, like let's say a survivor gets off a generator, it will immediately start regressing the generator by 200% of the normal regression speed. That's twice as fast. That's super helpful. That really does regress generators fast. What makes this hard is that it is a Hex perk. An old Hex Ruin wasn't even that hard. All it did was require you to hit great skill checks. That really wasn't that hard for good players. New Hex Ruin is almost already useless unless it's one guy working on a generator and you take that chase, you force him off the generator. 200% can be helpful, especially if you're like me on Pig, who runs Ruin Surveillance. I like Surveillance, if you didn't know. Then it can be very strong. However, if Hex Ruin gets cleansed, Surveillance kinda doesn't become the best perk in the world. If you can defend the Hex Ruin, it can be very strong. But most of the time, Hex Ruin gets cleansed in like 30 seconds of a match. Hex the Third Seal. Monstrous Shrine Tier, fight me. Hex perks are supposed to be some of the strongest perks in the game. Whenever you hit a survivor, they become blind. They have the blindness effect. That's it. That's all Third Seal does. They can't see auras. Why is that worth the Hex perk? It can be cleansed. And honestly, not seeing auras isn't really that big of a deal. Unless you're running something like Object or Dark Sense or... Sorry, I slept for 14 hours and for some reason I'm still tired. I don't know why. The only issue with Hex the Third Seal is that it's a Hex perk. Just like Lullaby, if this wasn't a Hex perk, I feel like it wouldn't even be overpowered. If this wasn't a Hex perk, it still wouldn't even be that good. If this wasn't a Hex perk, it wouldn't really even be that good. The fact that it's a Hex perk makes it god-awful. Why is it a Hex perk? I don't understand. Blindness isn't even that bad. Isn't even that good of a fucking status effect. So why? Why is this a Hex perk? Someone please give me the reason why it's a Hex perk. Someone tell me what's a Hex perk and I'll genuinely agree with you. If someone could give me the reason why it's Hex perk and it's a solid reason, I'll understand. But for now, it goes in the Monstrous Shrine tier. Hex Thrill of the Hunt. Another C tier perk. Honestly, a lot of these hexes are C. If you could tell, 4 of them are C. Hex Thrill of the Hunt gains 10% more blood points for actions in the Hunter category for each token. Gain a notification. Survivor's cleansing speed is reduced by 6% for each token. Hex Raid in the power. Blah 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 blah. For each stolen Hex totem remaining on the map, you gain a token. At the start, you have 5 tokens. Survivor's cleansing speed is reduced by 6% for each token. So basically, survivors have a 6% decrease in cleansing speed to a Hex totem for however many stolen Hex totems are on the map. So basically, at the start of the game, that's, what is that, 3? That's 30% decrease in cleansing speed. One totem gets popped, that's 24, another one 18%, and then another one's 12, then 6, then 0. And then you also gain a notification someone starts working on a Hex totem. It is very strong for protecting your Hex totem. Unfortunately, it is also a Hex totem, so which means you are basically running Hex Thrill of the Hunt to protect another Hex totem. So now it just becomes a 50-50 of which Hex totem they're going to cleanse. If Thrill of the Hunt gets cleansed, then you lose notification status. If your other Hex totem gets cleansed, then there's no reason to cleanse Thrill of the Hunt. So basically, you run this perk to protect a bunch of your Hex totems, but then you'll be getting notification because your survivor gets in the Hex totem. But what if you're in a chase? So you have to drop that chase to go protect your Hex totem. But I mean, it's in the situation it works. Also, gain 10% more blood points for the actions in the Hunter category. It's kind of nice. I don't know why it gives you Maybe because it's called Thrill of the Hunt. It's good for protecting Exodons, but it, it's just I'd rather just have a Hexodon without Thrill of the Hunt and bring a different perk like Infectious Fright, Monstrous Strength Monitor, like fucking Pop, Ruin, any other perk. Alright, is this finally the last Hex one? Okay. Finally the last Hexodon. Hex Undying. Survivors within 4 meters of any dull totem have their aura reveal. When another Hex totem is cleansed, that totem's Hex transfers to Hex Undying, deactivating Hex Undying. Any tokens that transferred Hex had are transferred as well. New Hex Undying, you've been... New Hex Undying, you're dying, isn't the song? New Hex Undying, you're dying. Hex Undying is fine. The fact that your Hex Totem has another chance at living is nice, but I feel like it's the same thing as Thrill of the Hunt. Is that all you're doing is protecting your Hex Totem. Now what makes... Oh, it was cracked. It was always yawning. Now what makes this thing slightly better than Thrill of the Hunt is that it doesn't give a notification. And, you know, you're not going to be panicking over the map because it's going to transfer. So no matter what, when one of your Hex Totems gets cleansed, Undying will get cleansed instead. So that means you have a chance to have, what's it called? Another chance at life for the Hex Totem. Let me read it again. But my question is, because I've never used Hex Undying. Can't you just cleanse Hex Undying? Like, because Hex Undying already has its own Hex. So why don't you just cleanse, you could just cleanse normal Hex Undying. I mean, it's nice that you can have any tokens that Hex has is also transferred. But why not just cleanse Hex Undying? I don't know. I think it's slightly better. Slightly better than that perk. Than the Thrill of the Hunt. So I'm gonna put it in C still, though. Moving on. We have Hoarder, finally. Survivors reveal their location when they interact with a chest and when they pick up an item within 64 meters of your vision. The trial begins with 2 additional tests in the environment. Another CTR perk. It's not hard to activate. I mean, it's fine. It shows if a survivor's in the basement and you're like near the basement within 64 meters, and it just when that goes off, it's super helpful because you can just basically run over there. I feel like there's better. What's the word? Better aura revealing perks. Nurses, barbecue. For instance, the next perk we're going to be covering, I am all ears, discordance, hell, whispers, which isn't exactly an aura revealing perk. I think it's fine, which is why I put in C, but I feel like there's just better aura revealing perks. I'm all ears. Oh, what an underrated perk I'm all ears is. Oh, let me stretch out my back real quick. I'm just sitting on my floor. God, I'm bored of this tier list, and I'm gonna have to upload it too. This sucks. Okay, I'm all ears is a great perk, and I don't know why it's underrated. I'm gonna put it in B. It's underrated. All right, so basically, any survivor who performs a rust action, which is like jumping out of a locker, jumping through a window, or speed vaulting or a pallet, as within 48 meters of you, has their aura revealed for 6 seconds, and it's a cooldown of 40 seconds. What makes this perk so good is that you're usually in a chase when this activates. You get to see exactly where the survivor's pathing, exactly what the survivor's doing, exactly the survivor's standing there waiting for you. If they go behind the wall, if they go it shows you everything they do for 6 seconds on a chase. So you know what a survivor is doing for 6 seconds during a chase is incredibly helpful. If it didn't have a cooldown, I'd put it in S tier, but the fact that it does have a cooldown, I'm going to put it in B. Infectious Fright. Survivors... Okay. Any survivors that are within your territories while another survivor is put into a dying state will yell and reveal their location to you for 6 seconds. It's just like a generator notification. I'm going to put it in B, as they had their aura revealed for 6 seconds to be helpful, but since it's just a generator, since it's literally just like a generator one, which is like, psh, like just a scream, it's fine. Insidious. It's only good on Bubba. Standing still for 2 seconds grants the undetectable status effect until you move or act again. It's only good on Bubba. It's only good on meme. It's a meme perk. It's really a meme perk. Oh, hi, Iron Grass. Iron Maiden. You open lockers 50% faster. Survivors who exit lockers suffer from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds and the location is revealed for 4 seconds. I actually, fun fact of the day, if you were watching our stream before with Huntress, I actually used the exposed status effect of, uh, of Iron Maiden. A survivor was hiding in a locker in my face. I couldn't find him, so I left the area, or I was about to leave the area. I'm an idiot. I didn't check the locker because I didn't think they had quick and quiet. I didn't think they'd jump out of the locker. Couldn't find them. I left. Lori jumps out of the locker, screams. I'm right there, and dude, and I fucking exposed status effect down there. That was the only chance I've ever used Iron Maiden. Iron Maiden's a times tier perk that's only good on Huntress. I'll give it E tier just because I've used it once. Knockout. Survivors put into the dying state by your basic attacks are not revealed to other survivors when they're standing outside of a 16-meter range. Survivors put into the dying state by your basic attacks go 50% slower for 15 seconds. During this time, survivors are affected by the blindness effect. It's not that good of an or it's not that good of a slug perk because the crawl 50% slower for 15 seconds really doesn't matter if you're slugging because the survivor can still just crawl away. But since it's a slugging perk, I can't exactly give it FF tier, and the fact that they are affected by the blindness status effect, and survivors can't see them outside of a 16-meter range can kind of help for slugging, but it's not the best perk. Lightborn. You are immune to blindness caused by flashlights and firecrackers. Survivors that attempt to blind you have their aura revealed for 10 seconds. This is literally the most useless perk. I'm actually going to put it. So, okay, it's not useless on the fact that you're immune to flashlight blinds. I mean, before you were pretty much immune. To be immune now into firecrackers as well is kind of helpful, but firecrackers aren't that common of an items, especially with how rare they are, only in between events. To be immune really doesn't matter, because before where you weren't immune, it didn't matter on the fact that it took forever to blind you, and you could pick up a survivor and not be blind. So now it doesn't matter. But having their aura revealed to you for 10 seconds is... No, fuck it, it's going... I'm going to put it in E tier just because you're immune to the firecracker, but... To have their aura revealed, even though they're trying to blind you, doesn't matter because they have to be in your line of sight to blind you. So, it makes no sense to have that. Only reason I'm putting in E is because you're immune to firecrackers. Mad Grit. Alright, this perk's just a meme perk. I'm going to put it in E. It's a meme perk. While carrying a survivor, you suffer no cooldown for missed-based attacks and successfully hitting the basic attack will pause the carry survivor's wiggle timer for 4 seconds. Now, what makes this perk E tier is that you actually move faster by just spamming the attack button than you do while standing still. So, I mean, it works in that premise, but yeah, not that good. Make your choice. When a survivor rescues another from a hook at least 32 meters away from you, make your choice causes the survivor to scream and applies the exposed status effect to them for 60 seconds. Make your choice as a cooldown of 60 seconds. This is a pretty okay. It's pretty strong. I mean, it's not pretty strong, but it's not bad. It's good. It's good. Make your choice basically makes one survivor have a panic attack for 60 seconds. That's it. They have to be 32 meters away from you, and they have to unhook somebody. I mean, it's an effective perk because a lot of killers can dash back to the hook and down that said survivor. I've seen killers use it. I've seen killers that hide 33 meters was literally right there and then fucking just walk back after they unhook. I don't know. I think it's a strong effective perk. They scream. They show you. I've been saying a lot in this. I don't know. They're put in B. I really have. I don't really know what else to say about it. It's a strong effective perk. Mindbreaker. While repairing a generator, survivors are afflicted by the exhausted status effect. Any existing stocked status effect timers. Any existing exhausted status effect timers are paused while survivors repairing a generator. After ending the repair action, survivors affected by the exhausted status effect for 5 seconds. The anti-sprint burst perk is terrible. It makes the survivor exhausted for 5 seconds. While the survivors are repairing a generator,
Well, okay, so basically, if you're exhausted, if you're exhausted already and you start repairing a generator, yeah, your exhausted status effect time is paused. Okay, whatever. If you don't have one, once you get off the generator, you're exhausted for 5 seconds. That's awful. It's terrible. Monitor and Abuse. Holy, single-handedly an S tier perk just by how it does. Let's see. In a chase, your terror radius increased by 8 meters. That does not matter. Out of one, your terror radius is decreased by 8 meters. That is so helpful. But what makes it even better is when you're out of a chase, your field of view is increased by 10 degrees. Not only is a field of view increase insanely helpful, but the fact that in a chase your terror radius is increased, which doesn't matter. But the fact that your terror radius is basically always decreased out of a chase, no matter what, it's only bad on Doctor. Your terror radius is always decreased out of a chase. That is incredibly helpful, especially in 24-meter killers. But your field of view being increased by 10 degrees also helps a lot in seeing things. A lot of people don't understand how much field of view increases help, and it's a super underrated way of just, seeing. I don't know how to describe it. You see more for no downside. Also, always having your terror radius being decreased is incredibly helpful. Monitor and Abuse is such a strong and effective perk that I sometimes expect killers to be running it. I expect plagues to be running it. I expect death slingers to be running it. I expect hags to mostly be running it. I expect most hags to be running it. To lower your terror radius outside of a chase helps on every killer except of like I said, Doctor. I cannot put into words what it does, but once again, just use it in a chase, and sorry, not in a chase. Just use it in a game, and you will see the effects of it. Okay, Monstrous Shrine, the worst killer perk in the game. I made its own special tier. Monstrous Shrine, dude. Okay, so when you, if this was just base, if this was if this was just on all hooks, this perk would be okay. Basement hooks grant the following bonus: 9% faster entity progress, 15% increased difficulty and escape attempts, 9% increased penalty and escape fails. So pretty much two of those are already useless. Increased difficulty and increased penalty. 9% faster entity progress on basement hooks. Okay. That's it. Why? Why would you run this? If it was on all hooks, it'd be okay. It'd be strong. It'd actually be good on all hooks. It's only on basement hooks. On top of that, you're never going to be trying to really escape on a hook. That's a terrible idea. 9% faster entity progress on basement hooks can be helpful. But that's the thing. It's only on basement hooks. If it was on any other perk, dude, the fact that it's on basement hook makes it so annoying. I don't know how to describe how utterly terrible this perk is. I don't. It's so bad. It is the worst perk in the game. If you don't believe me, run it. Nemesis. I have a problem with Nemesis. Anytime a new survivor becomes the obsession, they are affected with the oblivious status effect for 60 seconds, and their aura is shown to 4 seconds. Basically, whenever someone blinds you or stuns you using a pellet or locker, they become your obsession. They are afflicted by the oblivious status effect. That doesn't matter because to stun you or blind you, they have to be in your face. And their aura is shown to you for 4 seconds. All this perk does is change who the obsession is. It can combo with some other perks, which is why I'm going to put it in D tier. But all it does is change who the obsession is. And you have to be at a negative disadvantage. Okay, it's going in E. You have to be at a negative disadvantage to change the obsession. Negative. And most of the times, you don't like chasing your obsession. So when they stun you or use a pallet, you probably don't want to keep chasing them because a lot of perks in this game require you to ignore your obsession. I mean, the fact that it can combo with some perks makes it okay. Like, Play With Your Food Nemesis can be strong, But a lot of the perks in this game require you to ignore your obsession, which is why I have to put it in E. No way out. Oh man, you're not going to let just anyone into the VIP room. After hooking a survivor for the first time, No Way Out gains a token. When the last generator is paired, the NC blocks both X gates, which is for 10 seconds, plus an additional 8 seconds for each token in your possession. I mean, it goes with Blood Warden. It's whatever. It's fine. You can combo well with No Way Out, though. It's fine. I mean, in reality, if you hook all 4 survivors, then what is that? That's 16. That's at 32. That's 42 seconds that they can't open the gates. That's kind of strong, but I mean, Blood Wardens for a minute, but they require the XP to be open. I don't know. It's fine. It's whatever. It's fine. I feel like I can't put that about Blood Warden. I don't think. I kind of want to put it above Blood Warden, but I just don't think it's on the level of like Lullaby. Oppression. When you damage a generator, up to 3 other random generators also begin regressing. Oppression has a... If the affected generators are being repaired, any survivors repairing them receive a difficult skill check. They get an overcharge. Like basically, when you damage a generator, 3 other random generators also begin regressing. Just 3. Just 3 random. And if a survivor is on that generator, yeah, they'll get like an overcharge skill check. And oppression has a cooldown of 8 seconds. I mean, whatever. It's a gem regression perk. It's fine. Once again, I think I put it in C. Just because it's a gem regression perk, it's fine. Speaking of overcharge, we have overcharge. You are fueled by your hate for progress. Overcharging... Wait, what do you mean progress? Doctor is like a little bit... Overcharge a generator by performing the damage generator action. So basically, every single time you kick a generator, the next survivor interacting with the generator is faced with a tremendously difficult skill check. It's not hard. Failing the skill check results in an additional 5% loss of progress. So whatever... How do I say this? So for whatever like gem regression, like for like missing a skill check, it adds 5% on to like the negative progression of missing a skill check. Succeeding the skill check grants no progress but prevents the generator explosion. So once again, overcharge is a fine perk. It's not the best perk in the game, but it is a gem regression perk. I'm gonna put it right there with oppression. It's a gem regression perk. Overwhelming presence, terrible perk. Survivors in your territory suffer from inefficiency. Affected survivor item consumption rates are increased by 100%. Basically, whenever a survivor's in your territory, they use their item twice as fast. Okay? Items don't win games. What makes something better like Franklin's is that it requires the survivor to drop the item, and it completely gets them away. The survivor can still use your item. Items don't win games. Play with your food. You become obsessed with one survivor. Every time you chase your obsession and let them escape, you save a token up to a maximum of 3 tokens. Each token increases your movement speed by 5%, performing a base attack or special attack spends 1 token. I mean, I don't like this perk. I really don't like this perk. It requires you to start a chase and then leave your obsession alone. 3 times the maximum. And it also requires you to be complete... I almost want to put it in E. I'm going to put it in E. I can't. Every single time you use an attack, even if you miss, you lose a token. And you lose your speed increases. It requires you to be effectively useless to get speed increase. That's why I don't like it. It requires you to be effectively useless to get speed increases. I can't put it anywhere higher. I've seen Wraith builds. I've seen so many builds like this. But it requires you to be effectively useless to get its benefits. And once again, being effectively useless sucks ass. It's probably the worst possible requirement for gem plus, for gem positivity, is to be useless. Moving on. Pop goes the weasel. Even after its rework, it's a great perk. Every time you hook a survivor, for the next 45 seconds, Pop Goes the Weasel activates. In that 45 seconds, if you kick a generator, it instantly loses 25% of its progress. That's it. Oh, and normal generator, it also still regresses. It's not like it takes away regression. Great perk, even after it's nerfed. No, they rework. Thank God, we only have 2 pages left. Predator. Remember what I said about Bloodhound earlier? Yeah, Predator is the exact same. Your acute tracking ability allows you to hone in on disturbances left by running survivors. Scratch marks left by survivors will spawn considerably closer together. This can actually stop you from seeing some scratch marks on certain maps, like I said with Blood On, which is why I put an E. However, on most maps, they will allow you to see skill checks, or I mean, not skill checks, scratch marks better, but on some maps, it will stop you. I mean, once again, it's really not that hard to track. I'm not going to put it in E tier, just or Monster Shrine tier, just because unlike most of the perks in Monster Shrine tier that are god awful, it can help on some maps, but not really. Rancor. Rancor is a shittier Noeb. I'm gonna put it in C, just right next to it. You become obsessed. Each time a generator is completed, your obsession sees your aura for 3 seconds. Each time a generator is completed, all survivors' locations see you. Fucking bug. Oh, sorry, I didn't mean to hit my monitor. Oh. I require that. I forgot. It requires me to hit my monitor if I want to kill a bug. I was so mean. I just got this monitor. I didn't mean to hit it. There was a bug on my monitor. I had to kill the monitor. I'm sorry. I had to kill the bug. I'm sorry, monitor. I'm sorry. Okay. It's back on. It's fine. Each time a generator is completed, all survivors' locations are revealed to you for 3 seconds. Once all generators are completed, the obsession has the exposed effect, and you can kill your obsession. You can more your obsession. Like, once again, it's fine. It's a shittier NOED. It allows you to see, like, every single time a generator is completed, it allows you to see all survivors' locations, which is helpful. But when all generators are completed, it's not the strongest effect, just because it affects your obsession. So I try to put it as a shittier NOED. I think the being able to see locations of all survivors is helpful, but once again, Bitter Murmur or something like that can help perform it. Hi, Bitter Murmur. So I think it's just fine. I think it's just whatever. Play with me. Play with me is this. It's a shittier No Way Out. You become obsessed with one survivor. Each time you hit your obsession with the base attack, you increase the opening time of the gates by 4 seconds, up to an additional maximum of 16 seconds. The obsession is not affected by Remember Me. It's a shittier No Way Out. See No Way Out. Here we go. Here is one of my. I mean, it could be my favorite perk. Save the best for last. Each time you hit a survivor that is not your obsession, you get a token. Each token grants a stackable 5% decrease successful basic attack cooldown. Earn up to 8 tokens. Hitting your obsession with a basic attack will cause you to lose 2 tokens. You can no longer gain tokens of your obsession to sacrifice or kill. Having this perk is so incredibly helpful and strong. It's kind of hard because I always thought about, like, I hate about, like, perks that, like, don't allow you to, like, do something. Here's the thing, is that to not hit your obsession, that is a much easier thing to do than to let them escape a chase. It kind of sounds the same on paper, but it's not. What this perk allows you to do is it allows you not to be effectively useless and hit other survivors, and then have an increase. And it doesn't mean you can't hit your obsession. You still can. You will just lose tokens. Every time you hit a survivor, you now have a negative. You have a 5% decrease in successful basic attack and cooldown. If you get an 8, that's 40%. That is huge. That is so fast. You have to use it in game to really see the effects of it. But once you use it in game and you see the effects of it, you are blown away by how incredibly strong it is. Very underrated perk. Very, very underrated perk. I don't see it. And everyone knows it's a good perk, but I don't see killers run it enough. Seriously, run Save the Best for Last. It's a super, super strong perk. I don't even know how do you describe it? How do you describe the benefits from, like, fucking fantastic, amazing, awesome? The benefits from this perk for just chasing survivors is incredible. And also in the fact that it requires a very easy task to activate its abilities. Shadowborn. B tier. Once again, a very underrated perk. All it does is increase your FOV by 15 degrees. That allows you to see so much. It allows you to have much more better vision. It makes you, first of all, it makes you feel speed. But 2, it gives you better vision. It gives you, you can see more. Basically, to see more in a game like Dead by Daylight is insane. There's a reason why you can't increase your FOV in this game, and that's because if you could see more in this game, it gives you an advantage. To have a field of view increase by 15 degrees, wider than normal, gives you an incredible advantage. It allows you to see much more when just walking or chasing. Hell, there's a video on Paymer Lever where he would not have been able to see a lot of survivors. There's a lot of times in all of his chases, you cannot see survivors unless you have Shadowborn or Monitor, but you can barely see with Monitor. Seriously, try out Shadowborn. Great perk. Sloppy Boogers. Finally, another perk for A tier. We haven't had one since Discordance. Sloppy Boogers. Whenever you hit a survivor with like a normal basic attack, it causes them to be mangled and hemorrhage. Hemorrhage considerably increases the survivor's bleeding frequency. Hemorrhage effect caused by sloppy butcher is removed once the survivor is fully healed. Basically, every single time you hit a survivor with a basic attack, they bleed more frequently, and it takes longer to heal them. That is incredibly helpful, and it's not like something like Call Phobia, where you have to be in the terrorists. No, all you have to do is hit them, and it continue until they are healed. But you hit them again, it activates again. That's what makes it strong. Is that you just keep hitting them and it activates again. You keep hitting them and it activates again. It never goes away once you hit them until they're fully healed. And even when they're fully healed, you just hit them again. That's what makes it so strong. That's what gives it the ability to be great. I'm close like Legion. Fucking A, man. We're still going. Let's see what we got here. Spies in the shadows. The crows found in the world can communicate with you directly. 100% of the time, crawling crows gave you the visual cue when they're... Spies in the shadows is whatever. I mean, it has a cooldown. Problem is that you already see crows fly up into the world. So, whenever a crow is, like, startled, you already see it fly. So, I mean, the fact that it just says, oh, within a 36-meter range, oh, I cawed, is, like, whatever. And the fact it has a cooldown of 5 seconds, which really isn't anything, but, I mean, it's just whatever. Spirit Fury. Finally! More perks going into A tier. After breaking 2 pallets, the next time you are stunned by a pallet, the entity will instantly break the pallet. You still suffer from the stun effect. This goes great with Enduring. Next tier perk. Every time you break 2 pallets, the next pallet, no matter what, will just shatter instantly. That is incredibly strong. Especially because pallets are something you're breaking a lot of. That is incredibly strong. I don't really know how to describe... How should I put this? It's kind of like a time saver perk, but it's also a chase ender perk. Because once you break 2 pallets, which is not a hard requirement to meet, the next one that's thrown on you instantly breaks. Something like on Myers, which I run this perk on, to have that instantly break on your face, that the survivor isn't expecting that. They're like, oh shit, Spirit Fury. And then they realize, uh-oh, this pallet just instantly broke. Where am I supposed to run? Because usually, when you throw down a pallet, it's to stall out the killer. Because then they have to break the pallet or go around it. This one instantly breaks. That makes you have such a better amount of time as a killer to be able to, what's it called? Continue the chase or end a chase, to persist in a chase after the pallet instantly broke. It saves you about 7 seconds, which in a chase is actually important. Unlike something like Hangman's Trick, where 4 seconds really doesn't matter. It saves you a decent amount of time, and that's incredibly helpful during a chase. It also makes a survivor panic, at least in my fucking premise of it. But seriously, Spirit Fury is a great perk. I can't really. Once again, I'm not good at speaking. I can't really put. I'm getting lightheaded. I can't really put into words how good these perks are. But strong perk, run it. Starstruck. B tier. While carrying a survivor, any of the survivors in the area suffer from the exposed status effect for 30 seconds. This effect persists for 30 seconds. Survivors who leave your terrier as low within the terrier radius within your hook or release the cage. Survivors so goes cooldown for 60 seconds. Now, I mean, there's a good exclamation on Starstruck on why it's so good. I can't really say, but I mean, have a survivor be exposed for 30 seconds. You can really benefit. Now, it requires you to carry a survivor. Any survivors in your terrier suffer from the exposed status effect. I don't really know how to describe Starstruck, but it really makes flashlight saves pretty much useless, or pallet saves pretty dangerous. I don't really know where to really talk about Starstruck. I'm gonna put in B just because it requires a lot more passive play for 30 seconds, and I feel like it's a time saver, and passive play for survivors and being a time saver can really suck. I don't really know where to put it. I'll put it in B. There's an exclamation. You can look up Starstruck getting nerfed, and someone will explain it to you. Yeah, it's okay. Strider. Breathing of survivors in pain is 50% louder, and regular breathing is 25% louder. That's an A tier perk. That is a very strong perk, especially on someone like Spirit. Basically, every single thing that a survivor does is now louder. That's it. Survivors are just genuinely louder. That's all it is. That's helpful. That's all I gotta say. Survivors just being louder is very strong. I have no other words on it. Seriously. Surge. I'm gonna put it right with overcharge. It's whatever. Putting your survivor into the dying state with a basic attack, only a basic attack, causes all generators in a 32 meter radius to instantly explode and begin regressing. Generators affected by surge immediately lose 8% of their progress. Surge can be triggered once every 40 seconds. I mean, it's fine. It's fine. Generators affected by surge immediately lose 8% of their progress. I mean, it's not like a skill check pops up like a pressure regression, which I think makes it slightly better. And basically, any generators, and especially even if survivors are working on it, it will instantly still explode. If survivors not working on it, though, will start regressing after losing 8%, which is very helpful. Especially if you down a survivor that's working on a generator and surge just pops. Like, there's a lot of times where survivors will be like 90% on a generator, and you'll find them, you'll down a survivor, and two other survivors will still be working on it because they're trying to stick the generator to get it done. Surge instantly blows it up and forces survivors to be like, ah, shit, we gotta think of a new plan. I mean, it's a good perk, but once again, I feel like Ruin outclasses it. It's the same with like Overcharge and Repressed, whatever the fuck it's called. Oppression. I don't know. Surveillance. Honestly, I really hope that didn't pop up. Honestly, I feel like Surveillance is one of those perks where I feel like I just have the unique like connection to Surveillance because it's probably if Whispers, because my name is Voices. If Whispers probably wasn't my like perk like for like my logo to be like my logo, or probably eventually maybe my outro in the future. If Whispers really wasn't what I wanted to build like my channel around, I feel like Surveillance would be my favorite perk. I'm gonna put it in B. Every time you kick a generator, the generator will be high. Every time you kick a generator, the generator turns white. When the next survivor gets on it, it will be in a yellow aura for 16 seconds, and noise created by generator appears audible at an additional 8 meters. And that's just base. Noise created by generator appears for like everything, audible by additional 8 meters, which is helpful but not that helpful. This goes super well with Ruin, which is why I put it in B tier, because Ruin Surveillance can be extremely strong. Now, the only issue with Ruin is that can be cleansed. But to know when a survivor is instantly on a generator, and with Ruin, to know when they instantly get off a generator, can be very helpful. I think I'm going to leave it in B. It's very strong with Ruin, but I don't know. Territorial Imperative. Oh, fuck me. Otz used it one time, alright? Otz used it one time in the perk build, and he basically camped he basically played as a camping Demogorgon. Territorial Imperative is not good. Just because Otz used it in a pretty much camping build. Unlocks potential on one's aura reading ability. Survivor's aura is revealed to you for 3 seconds. They enter the basement and are more than 32 meters away from the basement entrance. Territorial Imperative can only be triggered once every 20 seconds. Basically, all this does is make you have a basement build. Starva did one video on this with Demogorgon. And all he did was go hide behind a fucking portal far away from the basement and teleport to the basement every single time someone walked in. He basically face camped, but just farther away. It's not that good, guys. It's really not that good. It stops you from opening chests unless you're going for a basement build. But even then, it's still not the strongest because your whole plan is just to hide in the basement or play around basement. But even if you're going for a basement build, you have to be far away from the basement. It's no bueno. Thanatophobia. For each injured, dying, or hooked survivor, all survivors receive a penalty of 5% to a maximum of 20% to repair, sabotage, and totem cleansing speed. It used to be 4%, up to a 16% to every single thing in the world except vaulting and shit like that. But it used to be the anti-healing perk. Now it's an anti-gem perk. I think it's still strong. I think it's still A tier. A lot stronger. It's a very good anti-gem rushing perk. And it works very, very well, Sloppy Butcher. Not as good as it used to work by Sloppy Butcher, poor Legion. But it works great on
killers like Plague and Legion. Great perk. Really good. Throwing Tremors. After picking up survivors, all generators not being repaired are blocked by the entity and cannot be repaired for the next 15 seconds. Effective generators are highlighted by white aura. Once again, a very strong perk, A tier. Could work very well with Ruin. This doesn't even need Ruin. Till basically every single time you pick up a survivor, for the next 16 seconds, effective generators are highlighted by the white auras. For all generators not being repaired are blocked for as ever long as you're carrying that survivor. Once you hit that survivor, I think it lasts for about 5 seconds more. Or it might just last for being repaired for the next 16 seconds. I'm not sure. But in reality, it's not the longest after you pick up. But basically, you see all the generators being affected by white aura. So you know exactly what generators that are being worked on and what generators aren't not being worked on. It can only be triggered once every 60 seconds, which is fine. But to know where everyone is really nice. Once again, I think it's slightly worse than barbecue. You can see that from earlier. But to know where every single survivor could, not every single survivor, but to know what every single gen is being worked on can be super helpful. Moving on. Tinkerer. When a generator is repaired to 70% repair progress, it triggers a loud noise notification and you are granted the undetectable status effect for 60 seconds. That can be super helpful. So basically, whenever a generator is repaired to 70%, it won't explode your survivors, but it'll basically explode to you. And you will be undetectable for 16 seconds. Hard and serious scum. Put it in B tier, much better than before. To be undetectable and to know what generators at 70% is helpful, and that is not a hard requirement to meet. Very easy requirement. Very good. I don't know. I think I'm gonna put it. Trail of Torment. Oh man. After kicking a generator, you become undetectable until the generator stops progressing, or a survivor is injured or put into a dying state by any means. During this time, the generator's yellow aura is revealed to the survivors. This effect can trigger once every 60 seconds. Basically, how do you say this? Once you kick a generator, you are undetectable until a survivor goes and taps that generator, and or you either hit a survivor, injuring them or putting them into the dying state by any means. This effect can only be triggered once every second. What makes this perk C tier is that that's a strong effect. Yes, it's a very strong effect to be undetectable. What makes it bad and not that strong is that survivors literally see where you're coming from. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in Z. I can't put it in Z. To see that, oh, the killer is literally right there and coming from that area. Better go. I can either one, go tap the generator, get rid of the effect, or two, wait for the killer to hit somebody. It's not the strongest. It can guarantee like an easy hit on, but the fact that everyone sees where you're coming from makes it D. Oh man, unnerving presence. This is the worst perk, almost in the game. Presence line itself. Survivors within the territories have a 10% greater chance of triggering skill checks when repairing or healing. Triggered skill checks success zones are reduced by 60%. Honestly, and I'm saying this honest, this perk helps me. This perk helps survivors. I feel like it is so much easier to hit skill checks that are afflicted by unnerving presence. I think it's easier to hit greats. I genuinely do. I think it's easier. I genuinely think it's easier to hit great skill checks that are affected by unnerving presence than it is normally. I think it is easier. On top of that, I have a 10% greater chance of triggering skill checks when repairing or healing. That's so nice. I want skill checks as a survivor so I can hit my greats and I can get the gen done faster. To have a 10% greater chance of triggering skill checks is helpful for the survivors because if they can hit fucking skill checks, it gives them an advantage. Unnerving presence just gives the survivors an advantage, guys. Come on. Unrelenting. Unrelenting makes it so when you miss an attack, the cooldown after missed basic attacks are reduced by 30%. If you miss an attack, there's whatever. 30% is really not going to make anything. If you miss an attack, there's a problem. Most times when you miss an attack, it's because you got stunned or they're on a window and you hit the window. So cooldown after missed basic attack doesn't really matter. I'm going to put it at E tier just because I feel like sometimes it can kind of maybe come in helpful if you just blatantly miss in a cornfield or they 360 you. Yeah, I mean, it helps you recover faster, but seriously,
It's your fault if you miss. Whispers. Once again, I feel like I have a little bit of how do I say love towards Whispers because it was the inspiration for my name, Voices. You have a run it blah 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 understanding. When sporadically hearing anti-whisper when standing. Within a 32-meter range of so basically whispers activates within a 32-meter range of survivors, you'll start to hear whispers and in the bottom right it will activate. That's very helpful in start and late game. In middle game, not so much because in all honesty, it's gonna be kind of popping off in mid game. But at the end game, it helps a lot in finding a survivor, and at the start, it helps. Now, even in mid game, it can kind of help because you'll always really be in the range of survivors, but you'll never really know. So to know always when you're in the range of survivors makes it helpful. All right, moving on to our last perk. Thank God, I've been here for like what, over an hour. Zanshin Tactics. It is windows of opportunity for killers, which is why I put it in D. It's not good on really any killers, but I mean, it's not like for rank 1, it's really not that good, but pallets spawn randomly, so it can be really helpful to find out where pallets are. The ores of all pallets break walls of all locations fields within a 32-meter range. It's fine. It's whatever. It can be used to find pallets. Really don't need to find vaults. It's not the best on really experienced killers that already know where everything's to spawn, but it's whatever. Alright, that is my killer perk tier list. Every single perk. Oh, man. If I really am putting the best perk in the game, I'm probably going to put Save the Best for Last up there. But if I'm really going to put the worst perk in the game, it's going to be Monster Shrine. Almost Unnerving Presence, but I feel like Monster Shrine's just worse by an inch. Well, yeah, I guess, thanks for watching. I really hope that... Give us thumbs up. I really hope that, well, the fucking thing that I accidentally did, where I zoomed out on, didn't show the fucking picture, because that's just there for a meme. And if it did, that sucks, because this video's gonna be taken down. Alright, so, I'm gonna go watch Felix Hentai.